This video is presented by EA Game Changers. Footage you're about to see is from an earlier build. My gameplay and impressions here may not be representative of the gameplay you'll see in the final game releasing in February. You can always see more details about any of the vids I make in the description.
Freelancer! Hello again. Sentinel Brynn here.
Hi again, Sentinel. How are you?
Fine. The Arcanist space isn't far from your location. Keep an eye out for scars.
Will do. Since this is our first mission, maybe we should talk. Get to know each other?
No, let's not. I'll let you know when you're close to the base.
Alright.
Characters. One of BioWare's strengths is building memorable characters that enlighten, compel, or even disgust us. Some have withstood countless trials by our side. Some have driven us to chase and crack their stupid, dumb elven head open. And others we've memed to hell because they can't stop flexing. So, how does it narratively work out when you have a game that takes those characters and shoves them all into one congested, claustrophobic city? Do you still get the same enriching experience? Are they still compelling or engaging in a multiplayer-first environment? From how conversations are formatted to their presence in and around Fort Tarsis, let's talk about my impressions so far on how effective characters are in Anthem. How conversations work. Outside of cutscenes, there are at least two known ways we converse with these characters. In Fort Tarsis, conversations are intimate. It tends to vary between close-ups, where you see every freckle and micro-expression, and at arm's length, where you might even talk to two people at once. Outside of the fort, everything is over comms. BioWare's definitely backpedaled some of their design choices made during Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda. In this case, how conversation works. In those two games, the devs put more emphasis on overhead conversations, where the voiceovers compensate for a lack of facial animation work and limited body movement. While this allowed them to scale how many different NPCs a player could have conversations with, especially with DAI being absolutely massive, this definitely cut into the immersion and interpersonal connection players would have with said characters. This also was not well received after Inquisition's Jaw of Hakon DLC, where these types of conversations cover, throwing out an estimation, roughly 90% of the gameplay. In Anthem, they definitely upped the priority of intimate, face-to-face conversations. The experience is similar to how Dragon Age Origins had every person be positioned and framed on screen. Of course, without our own character appearing in this one. And while I prefer third-person customizable characters, having almost every in-person conversation being face-to-face is so much better, and I implore BioWare to bring that back for every single game after this one. Now let's talk about specific characters we'll actually talk to. Outside of Owen, Faye, and Halleck, we haven't seen too much. Here we have Sentinel Brynn over comms, the quest giver for this early critical path quest, I believe the third one, called Preventative Precautions. She wants you to discover what's happening with the scars in the area, being their typical buggy nuisance. Now, I like Brynn. Brynn is part of the Sentinels, a group that acts as the local police force in Fort Tarsis. But while most of the Sentinels are stick-in-the-mud, domineering smugs, Brynn is a sympathetic person towards the freelancers. She's a pretty positive gal, but positive in that she's smiling while simultaneously trying to shrug you off. But on the other side, Brynn has a very strong, almost aggressive feeling towards the Scars, the enemy faction that always plagues you when you're trying to be outside the walls. I like her in a way that reminds me of why I liked Felana in Dragon Age Awakening or Tali in Mass Effect. She has very strong quirks that make her out to be an endearing person. You really get it when she talks. But she's definitely an interesting one because while I thought her to be another cute and quaint Suvi, I personally sense some deep-seated hatred when she talks down about the scars that make you question why and what the hell is your problem. She's just one of the many agents you get to know and receive quests from while you're in Fort Tarsis. While you're taking on this quest, she reveals small slivers of her own personality, and ideally you get significantly more in the fort. It's good that we have these ongoing conversations with the quest givers while out in the world, especially if you're playing solo and there's no real talk happening with other players. Whether it's Owen scolding you for being a grab-it killer or Brynn harping on the scars, there's some good lines to pep you up. But on the other side comes with the problem of having voiced characters. Regurgitated voice lines. Much like what I was trying to say and failing at it, to mention in the last video is that, in my opinion, there's a lot of dragging your heels from point A to point B to point C and so on. You have to do the critical path to get fresh content in the fort, but between checkpoints, sometimes there's a bit too underwhelming phrases or very short quips. I suppose there's only so many ways you can say enthusiastically, "Great job! You killed them!" I mentioned Swoder last time, but a more recent example of this lacklusterness would be in Mass Effect Andromeda while you're driving the Nomad. Take out party banter and you have your AI Sam repeating the same calls he did on the last world. Take Sam out and it's just your engine and random swooping noises. It all needs something special, just a tiny bit, to crack through the boredom. Fallout 76 has its music, quest givers, and radio shows all over the channel. Destiny had great, sometimes terrifying sound design for their enemies. Past BioWare games had regularly occurring party banter. The trailer showed off these awesome Shaper Storms, but I personally did not experience anything like that while I was playing, and I really hope those aren't restricted to special events. Of course, yes, I can talk to my friend or the match made random I'm with, but I feel in general the beautiful environments will stale quickly if there's not something else to complement the conversations. The outside world needs a bit more static to the white noise. Get your heart pumping, blood boiling, anything to keep you on edge, engaged, and in the moment. In Fort Tarsis, however, oh, that's safe. That's very safe. Well, Brynn seems like a quirky riot, and I personally love the hell out of Owen. What's going to really make this game is whether you have characters that mesh well enough over the course of time that you're willing to come back and play the game. With my limited time playing, I liked who I saw. Not just the agents that we have or the main characters, but the war-torn, conflicted old man in the shadows, the Conrad Werner, Kalisa bin Saman al-Jalani crossover, the radio playing in the back alleys. But that's all in the fort. Outside, I'm in a javelin, I'm arguably more powerful than the wimpy scamps outside. What is staving off the boredom if I'm only being strung along by quick, quaint quest lines? BioWare says their mission is to create worlds of adventure, conflict, and companionship that inspires you to become the hero of your story. I can see hints of it, a world that invigorates me almost as much as the past games have, all in Fort Tarsis. Out in the world, which is arguably more than half of the gameplay, I guess I'm still waiting to play the rest of the game to figure it out. Thank you for watching, and thanks to those who provided a lot of constructive words regarding last week's video. I appreciate you dearly, and I will continue to try and do better in future vids. In case you didn't catch what I said last week in the comments, the whole point of this is to show a different perspective on Anthem, on which I hold BioWare very much accountable for. Quality story and quality characters. If you're looking for javelin loadouts or weapon breakdowns, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I won't be doing much of it. But the plus side is that there are so many other channels out there that you are welcome to check out. But if you are interested in my thoughts on Anthem, please click subscribe. Let me know what you think. Next week, I will be back with a new video, and I dare say I'll be able to say things more freely about my experiences playing Anthem. Follow me on Twitch as well. I'll be streaming the game a lot when it's out, but also be pulling people to play with from the BW Outpost. Also, link to join the Outpost, I mentioned it last time, but I'm going to say it again, it's our Discord community involving all BioWare games, is in the description. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, and Fenharal and Ansal. Hey again. After recording this, I realized I still had the end of the quest to show off, so instead of more commentary, please enjoy the quest end. I'll see you next week. Bye!
aliens.
You should silence it, probably. Magnet returned. Nice work.
Found a piece.
Nice work. Return it. Shield of General Tarsus.
Were those scars deliberately trying to force a Shaper artifact to create scorpions?
Maybe? That's so strange. They normally just scavenge. I'll put it in my report. And thank you. Great answer. This was a huge help to the Sentinels and to the fort.
Nice working with you two.
Yes. Well, maybe we'll work together again sometime. Maybe.
See you around, Brynn.